Hey y'all. Hey. Happy Self-Care Friday. Let me see if I can lock this thing in. I was saying, Coach T, you early today. Listen, y'all know it's always something. If y'all see me in another area outside of the sofa, okay, we gotta just make it work. We gotta make it do what it do. Listen, happy Self-Care Friday, early. My name is Coach T. For some of you who may not know me, I am a mental health wife coach and marriage consultant. I coach wives who are going through a marital hardship. Most of the wives that I coach have biblical reasons to exit out of their marriages, but for some reason, some urgency, some kind of urge in their spirit, some kind of unction in their spirit, an instruction, a promise that God has given them, they have made a decision to stay based off of God's instructions. And so I help those wives to navigate through their unhealthy season in their marriage in the most healthiest way by teaching them how to prioritize themselves and helping them to trust God on another level. All right. And so welcome. Coach T is coming to you live on her lunch break because, baby, I'm not going to be able to do this live later. And so if you are on my email list, you know I have shared with you recently that my husband was in the hospital over the weekend. He's fine. Praise God. Fine. He's home, but he's been home, all week. And so I knew I wasn't going to have time to do this. So I wanted to just kind of pop in and say hello. Happy Friday. Happy Self-Care Friday. And just share a word with you, right? I want to just share a quick word with you to just encourage my wives to, y'all got to stay woke, okay? Listen to me. Y'all got to stay woke, okay? I don't know what God has up his sleeves for the wives, especially for the wives that he has called to this journey, to this specific assignment. But baby, whatever it is, the enemy is not fighting fair, okay? He is trying to take you off of this journey by all means necessary, okay? By all means necessary. And so I have two Bible verses I'm going to share with you, but I'm going to share with you the first one. This just fell in my spirit. I didn't have much. I just put something together based off of what I was hearing from the Lord. Just kind of sitting and trying to jot down some things to share. But 1 Peter 5 verses 8-9, which says, be sober minded. Come on, Jesus. Be watchful. Listen to these words, y'all. Be sober minded. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. But I want you to focus on the first words in this scripture. Be sober minded. Be watchful. So I think it was last week, even before I went live on last week, I was sharing with some of the ladies on my email list that I had noticed that my husband wasn't feeling himself, wasn't feeling good. And I say that you would think, well, he didn't know he wasn't feeling good. I don't know. I don't know, because he was still getting up, going to work, doing his normal routine, doing his normal thing. But I had started noticing, he was kind of walking a little different. His words was coming off a little bit differently. And he was asking some questions, but he was repeating the same questions. And I'm like, So at first I was like, okay, maybe he just need to eat, because every now and again his blood sugar would drop or whatever. He know he's supposed to be monitoring that. That's another story. And he hard-headed and stubborn. And he want to be a man. And so when you try to tell him stuff, you be like, I'm like, okay, all right. And so I made sure he had something to eat. I made sure that he was, good in that sense or whatever. He was resting. And then he was getting up, going back to work like normal. But something in me was like, something is off. Something is not right. Now, usually when I have those kind of incidents that come up or happen, I normally start, praying a lot more. I start dreaming about certain things. I start, having like this sense of urgency on me where I need to like pray. So I had been praying in the middle of the night. Then sometimes I get, what they call it, insomnia, where I can't sleep at night. And I don't know why. It's not like I don't want to go to sleep. But for some reason I just don't be tired and I don't go to sleep. And so usually when those things happen, this is self-care 101. This is self-awareness 101. I mean, self-awareness 101. When those things happen, those are some of the things that I notice about myself. When I notice that something is coming, something is getting ready to, something is happening, something I need to be aware of, that type of thing. I'm self-aware of myself to know these things start to happen when something is getting ready to shift, something's going to get ready to happen, this and that and the other. Now, y'all know all my family is in Florida, and these doggone hurricanes, okay, they all fine, they all well, praise Jesus. And so that's what I was thinking, like, that's what is, before all this happened. I'm like, this is probably the Lord was trying to prepare me for. I started having these kind of, moments with God where I feel like, I need to pray. I need to be fasting. I need to be in a position where I can hear from him so I can know how to pray, type of thing. And like I said, my superpower that the Lord gave me, my spiritual gift, I like to pray in the spirit. And so I had been doing those things, right? I had been doing those things. If falling apart was an option, I didn't get the memo. Right? I didn't get the memo, because it was almost like you don't have room or time or space to fall apart. And this is one of the things that I always try to tell wives, and why this work that you do on this journey is so important, that you get this ahead of time. Because once you are back home with your husband, back in a reconciled place, back in a space where you and your husband are there, you have to know, like, those very things that you learned in the beginning of this, you're going to take those same lessons with you as you go, to the next level. And I think I shared this a little bit on last week. As you go to these different levels, you're going to take some of those same things with you. Got through the week or whatever. Like I said, that was on, my husband's day off when I had started noticing that he was, something was off. And I always, when he cuts our son's hair, I can always tell when his, his blood sugar or whatever low. And he always say, when his blood sugar is low, he kind of like start to jerk a little bit, type of thing. And so we just make sure he has something to eat, he's good, whatever. So he goes to tell me that he wasn't feeling good. That, he, in a vomiting. This all happened after, right? Like after we done got to the hospital, like after he done, had his little incident at work or whatever. He goes to tell me, he wasn't feeling good. He was trying to eat something, but this and that and other. But you didn't tell me nothing, sir. You didn't tell me nothing. See, thank God that the Lord speaks to me, because a lot of times, wives, these husbands ain't gonna tell you nothing. This same week before all this stuff happened, him going to the hospital, I had a dream, crazy dream. And when I get dreams like this, it's like, I know God he was very specific, right? He was very specific. And in this dream, like, I was somehow sitting in this chair. I think one of my uncles who passed away was in this dream, and he was cutting my hair, but he wasn't cutting my hair. Let me take that back. He was edging my hair. Like, he was edging me. And I was looking in the mirror as he was edging, and then he turned my chair like to look towards the wall. And when he turned my chair to look towards the wall, you see like a bunch of these men like stacked on top of each other, right? They didn't have like no shirt on, or like they was just laying on top of each other. You can see like them on this bed. You can see the wall, and their eyes was kind of like rolling the back of their head. And I'm like, and I woke up. So I'm like myself, okay, like, what is this about? I don't really dream about stuff like that. And then I think after that, I had, some more dreams that I really couldn't remember, but I knew in that moment, like, this is something that the Lord is definitely trying to deal with me on. Let me make sure I don't want to get hot, because y'all know how this thing do. So this is like, I know this is something that God was definitely trying to get my attention, with or whatever. So sure enough, later on, I finally discovered and realized that the dream that the Lord was showing me was, basically something that was, had took place with, with my husband, or he had a fall at work. And so I say all that to say, if I was not in a place, and the reason why this is so important to me and why I highlight these things, because I think I've shared before on several videos where I remember my father, when he got sick, and my father ended up passing away, and I would always hear people, preach and teach and share about, how we can, pray, and, you have a chance of, bringing this person back around, or, that kind of just being in place. And I remember in that moment when my father was in a hospital, where I felt so defeated, because we, as his family, we didn't have enough Jesus on the inside of us to pray for him. We didn't have enough faith. We didn't have enough scriptures. We had not been doing enough work. During that time, it was just chaotic. Nobody was in, a real good place with the Lord where they could go to him. And not saying that, it happened type of thing, whatever it was supposed to happen type of thing. What I'm saying is, we should have been in place where we could at least pray some kind of way and have some kind of faith, type of thing. And that was something that I had always took with me, where I said, I don't want to be in a position like this again, where something happens, something comes up, with a loved one, a relative, or anybody, where I'm not even in a position where I can pray for them. The Bible talks about that in the book of James, like the elders, you lay hands on a person and put the oil on them. I don't want to not be in a position where I can't at least go and pray for them and walk away with peace, knowing that I did my part, God's will be done. Now, with my father, I'm not saying that God's will wasn't done. I'm saying that was a lesson that I took from it, that we wasn't ready. Like we wasn't in position. Now, since then, okay, Coach T have been in position, right? Since then, I've been able to pray. Since then, I've been able to go to some people, behalf on the hospital. Since then, I've been able to do some things. But during that time with my dad, we was not in position to pray for him. So I say that my husband, he didn't let me know what was going on with him, but the Lord had already kind of was giving me a forewarning of what was going on with him, type of thing or whatever. And I just thank God for that. But more than anything, I thank God for helping me to, helping me to be on watch, which is one of the things I always tell wives. I thank God that I had already did my work, right? That I was doing my work. And I thank God that I was in a healthy place, my well-being, right? My well-being was in a healthy place where I was able to take control of that situation and not let the situation take control of me. And these are some of the things that I emphasize to my wives, especially when that time comes. A lot of times wives are not focusing on, what's going to happen when the husband get home. They're not thinking about that kind of stuff, because their main goal at this time is, I'm trying to get him back home, right? Or the wives who's are there in the home with their husbands, they're not thinking about, this or that or whatever. They're thinking about, well, he's doing this and he's doing this and he's doing that, and I need him to do this and I need him to do that, right? But one of the things I try to highlight with wives is, you always have something to do. And your job is not to monitor him, but you do need to be watchful. You do need to be aware. You do need to be connected to the Lord, so God can bring some things to your attention. And it's not just bringing some things to your attention, oh, he's doing this, oh, he's doing that, oh, he's doing that. Sometimes this man could be having some physical stuff going on that you need to be doing, that you need to be praying for. I just had a client on Thursday. I do my early morning clients, my VIP clients. And one of the things that we was discussing was the importance of being a watchman over your home. One of the things that we just highlighting that you should be able to you're the first response. You're the first responder. You should be able to say, okay, yeah, this is going on, this and that. You should be able to study your husband and already know if something is off with him, something is going on. And one of the things that we discussed was how do you pray for him? And one of the things I always share with my wives who have taken my curriculum, I just highlight the importance of going to God on your husband's behalf on a weekly basis. God, is there anything specifically that you need me to pray for him about? God, is there anything specifically that I need to be praying for my husband about, type of thing? And allowing God to speak to you during those times. One thing about Coach T, even to this day, that's something I still do for my husband. And I feel like me doing those things, that keeps me connected. So when stuff like this happens or whatever, and it's not just for my husband, I do it for my husband, I do it for my children. I was telling my son yesterday, I was like, y'all think sometimes that, mama ain't saying nothing. She ain't bothering us, everything else is fine. And then all of a sudden, out of clear blue, she'll call and ask us a question. You be like, well, where'd that come from? It's like, it came from because God been already talking to me about that. And I just had not got to you about it yet, or God has not, released me to say something to you about it. But don't think that I'm just over here she's busy, or she's with a client, or she's dealing with pop-pops, or she's not dealing with, she's not studying me. God is always talking to me. And I feel like a lot of that comes from the work that wives are doing on a weekly basis. On a weekly basis. So many wives get bored with the mundane routine things. It's like, oh God, we're going to always be in this place. We're going to always be doing the same thing. We're going to always be. It's like, no, that's not the case. Like, you have to know those routine things, that stuff that God has you doing, that is part of a system that God has you on, and it's for a reason. I always like to reference the movie with, the Karate Kid. He was getting so frustrated with that man. Like, I'm doing the same thing. I'm hitting the same way. I'm punching the same way. What is this doing? This is stupid. This is not teaching me how to fight. And then when the man came up and said, all right, you think you ready? Come on, let me show you. And so then he start, hitting him and showing him like why it's important for you to learn these basic mundane things, these routine things, so that when the person strikes, you'll know how to hit this way. When that person strikes this way, you'll know how to hit this way. And that's what wives have to really understand on this journey. If your husband is not in the home, wife, you have work to do. If your husband is inside of the home, wife, you have work to do. If your husband is acting like a butthead and he is, in an adulterous affair, or he's not, participating in, in home, things, and he's not, paying bills, and he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, you have work to do. A lot of people try to say, well, dang, I thought he's the man, and then I thought that he's supposed to do this, and the Bible say that the man's supposed to do this, and the man. What can you do about a person who is not following the Bible? What can you do about that? What can you do about a person? What kind of control do you have over a person who is not following the decrees of the Bible? Wives got to get their head out of, well, the Bible says you're supposed to do this, this, and this, and this. But what if he's not? Then what? The Bible said you're supposed to be doing that, and this. But what if he's not? Then what? Does that mean now your house have to fall and suffer and go under because he's not doing what the Bible said he's supposed to do? A lot of times wives be forgetting that your husband has not accepted Jesus Christ as his personal savior. You are expecting him. My pastor always said like this. He said, you got to start expecting an unbeliever to act and behave like an unbeliever. But what happens is a lot of times is wives be looking at their husbands to be a certain way. And it's like, why are you looking at them to be that certain way, that kind of way? And they cannot. They're unable to, right? They're not believers. So you can't expect an unbeliever to behave like a believer. But you want to throw the Bible over his head and say, well, the Bible said a husband's supposed to be doing this. Yes, the Bible has a lineup of a lot of things that a husband's supposed to do, that we're supposed to do as God's children, that a wife's supposed to do. When you are in a position like this, you have two options. Only two. You can either go along with the foolery and try to, change that person, try to convince that person, try to, make this person this and that, whatever, while your house is falling apart, while your bills are not getting paid, while different things are happening. You can try to convince that person to change. You can try to tell him things, over and over again. One thing my husband used to always tell me is, you do all that fussing and cussing and saying all this kind of stuff, and they ain't do nothing. Like none of that did nothing. Like the whole time that didn't do anything. You doing all that fussing. He's like, that's not that you can't change me. That was what my husband used to tell me all the time. Like, you can't change me. You can cuss and fuss and scream and yell and do all that kind of stuff, and that's not going to stop me from doing these things. I have to be convicted. I have to get to a place where I'm convicted and the Lord deal with me for me to be able to change. That's from a person who was able to, who was aware of that situation and saying, like, no, that ain't gonna do anything, right? So you can continue to think that the Bible, your husband's supposed to do this kind of things, but what if he don't? Why put too many expectations on these husbands who are non-believers? You are expecting him to behave a certain way. You are expecting him to, oh, he didn't call, oh, he didn't do this, oh, he didn't behave this way. What do you expect? He's not walking in his purpose. He's not doing the things that God has called him to do. He's not honoring the Lord in that way. But you, wife, you are the one that God has called to this place. You are the one that God is saying, hey, I need you to help him. And in the meantime, I'm going to need you to do some things that probably the wife wouldn't necessarily do. But I'm calling you to do these things until I get him straight. And sometimes, wives, that's when we go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 13, that talks about how do you know, wife, it won't be you who will change your husband, right? How do you know, wife, that it won't be something that you do that can change your husband? Maybe it's not 13, maybe it's 16. It's chapter 6, it's verse 7, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 16. Wives got to get out of this mindset that, oh, well, he's supposed to pay the bills, and he's supposed to be the head of the household, and he's supposed to be the leader, and yes. But you have to understand that is a person who is walking with the Lord. How do you deal with an unbelieving spouse? Let's go back to 1 Peter chapter 3, when it says, when you're dealing with an unbeliever, how you supposed to walk as a wife and be a role model for the Lord in front of your husband. Wives got to stop thinking that your husband's got it all together and he has not accepted Jesus Christ as his personal savior, right? This is why I tell wives, you got to stay woke. You got to stay woke on this journey. You have a job. God has called you to be a watchman in this season. You have work to do. You need to constantly always be working on your own inner self. And then your well-being has to be the highlight of how you get through those mundane seasons, those mundane weeks, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. What you do on a regular basis, those things have to be the thing that lift you up and that build you up, right? Listen, I had to say, I asked my husband, I said, boy, I don't know why the Lord loved you so much. Now that's just me, Coach T, being sarcastic. I said, I don't know why the Lord loved you so much. Like, what is going on with this? But then God had to bring to my attention, it's not that I just love him. I love all my children in this way. I love all my children in this way. Like, you think you got 9 lives around here? Like, this is not how this goes, sir. Right? But God is like, no, I love all my children in this way. My grace is sufficient for all of them. One of the Bible verses that I had been really talking about and reading have been from Isaiah 43 verses 1-3, right? And it simply says, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze, for I am the Lord your God. That Bible verse, I could not understand why that was something that God had been like really having me to focus on, like, over and over again. Like, I kept on going back to that Bible verse, like, over and over again. And I'm just a believer, and this is what I coach my wives to do. When God is showing you something over and over again, when God is bringing certain things to your attention over and over again, when God is trying to get your attention about something, how he gives you dreams, how he's very vivid in certain things, Listen, pay attention to those things, wife. Pay attention to those things, because it is those things that God is using to help you on this journey, right? It was not a coincidence, right? When I got the call from my husband, it wasn't like, oh, it didn't scare me. Of course it scared me. Like, like, oh, your husband had a fall, da 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 da. Yes, of course that scared me, right? But once I got there to him, and even on my way to the hospital, I felt like the Lord was like, he's fine. He's fine. Once I got there and seeing that he was actually fine, from there, it was like I was on another assignment, right? I was on another assignment. It was like I had certain things that I had to do. Wife, you have to be so self-aware of self. Too many wives around here are monitoring their husbands and putting all these expectations on their husbands and wanting their husbands to be a certain kind of way, when really God is saying, no, I allow these certain situations so I can show you where you are. So I can show you where you are on this journey. I allow some of these things to happen sometimes so I can show you where you are. Take the expectations off an unbelieving husband. Stop expecting him to do what the Bible is saying that a husband's supposed to do. What you do is begin to pray that he do those things what the Bible says that he's supposed to do. But you're not trying to hit him over the head. Oh, God said you're supposed to be doing this. Oh, God said you're supposed to be doing this. Oh, what if he don't do those things? If he don't do those things, then you now, wife, have to take the lead. Wives have to understand, if you go back to the story of Genesis, we are natural leaders. And that's why God told us that we would not have control over our husbands. He told us that way back in the book of Genesis, right? Naturally, it's natural for us to lead. It's natural for us to do. It's natural for us to put things in order. It's natural for us to go and do things and make sure things is here, there, right? And it's not as natural for a man. But those are the things that sometimes God is trying to show you about yourself. Like, I need you to take a different stance. I need you to approach him a different way. I need you when you speak to him, I need you to speak to him in this kind of way. You would say this, and this, but he may not look at it this way. I ain't gonna ever be that type of wife. Regardless of what my husband has going on and the choices that he's making, I ain't gonna ever be like, okay, well, you supposed to be doing this and you gonna be supposed to be doing this. And so since you ain't doing it, then I guess we just ain't gonna get it done. I'm not going down like that, honey. I'm not going down like that. Wives gotta stay woke. Pay attention to being that watchman. You are a watchman over your household. Pay attention to the work that you have to do. You have work to do. This stuff doesn't stop. Pay attention to your well-being, making sure that you are taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, making sure that you're doing those things, right? Pay attention to those things, because the enemy, he's around here plotting. He's using the same trickery. He's using the same schemes. He's using the same tactics. He's going after the same agenda. His plan is to destroy you. If he know he already got his hook on your husband, or he know that he can go back to your husband, or he know that your husband is the weakest link on this journey, then his job is to come after you, wife. And you got to stay woke. You got to be sober minded. You got to be watchful. You got to know that his job is still to steal, kill, and destroy you, because you are the one that God has called to the assignment, and you're the one that God is calling to do these things. All right. So I want to encourage you on today. If you are in a position in a season and you're ready to do your work, I want to encourage you to sign up at www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com. Listen, this is a time, this is a season for you to do your work. Happy Self-Care Friday. I love y'all. I'll talk to you soon. Blessings.